Welcome to the deep end, September 24th, 2024. Hi, Betsy. Happy birthday. Mike Schopp, Adam Krautwurst. We are 3 weeks through the NFL season. We'll check in on the Deep End Invitational. Our guest, Fantasy Mojo, will help us to analyze the first 3 weeks. And I guess, as always, there is a lot. It is tough out there. Did we all need to be drafting running backs, certain running backs, earlier than it felt right to do to some of us? And are we really talking about starting the likes of Sam Darnold and Andy Dalton over Patrick Mahomes and Anthony Richardson as we go into week 4? Is that the world we live in? It's up to us, Adam and Mike, to determine that tonight. And we're glad you're witness to this conversation. Mike and Adam, powered by the Player Profiler Network. Fantasy Mojo in a moment. Welcome to the Deep End.
What a week. What a night last night. Listen, I'm team 2 Monday night games every week for the rest of the year. That's not, 2 games on at once. Incredible night. Had some friends over for the Bills game. Kids were jumping up and down. Great night.
I saw that online today. What exactly is the argument against it? What's the best point? You don't stay up any later. You don't get stuck watching halftime conversations that don't help you, learn anything.
Right.
I mean, what's the problem? The other game you weren't watching, Washington, Cincinnati, would have been at 1:00 on Sunday, where we're not watching it anyway.
Right. That's a good point. That's right. It's I think the complaint is it's a prime time game that, runs into another one. But listen, with all the streaming devices and the apps now, you can do both.
I had one complaint last night that was specific to me, and that's because I was at the Bills game. And Monday Night Football, I get nostalgic about it. I mean, it's not been that many times. And when I thought about the fact that there was another game on that had the quote real announcers, I got a little bit sad. Like, all right, we're just sort of stuck here in the ESPN
abyss,
Louis Riddick purgatory. But it was still a fun night. We left at halftime.
Louis Riddick and Orlovsky?
I have broadcaster hangups that almost ruined the entire experience for me.
Wow.
And his for me is he cannot get through a sentence without saying the words football team.
Now
he'll often say it twice in one sentence. And we all know it's a football game. Like, we just sort of need to be a little bit more economical with our words. But those guys come from sports and I come from words. So it's a classic impasse. Where does Fantasy Mojo come? Have we explored Fantasy Mojo's career, his background, his origin story? I don't think we have.
Let's bring him in right now and figure out this origin story of Fantasy Mojo.
Yo,
buddy? No.
What's up? Long time no see.
It is kind of. I missed. Right. I missed Vegas and the Expo.
I missed Vegas. I was at the Expo.
You missed. Kentucky. You didn't go.
I didn't go. I went to Kentucky instead because I promised Farrell years ago I would go, and with the Friday night, Thursday night fiasco of games, not fiasco for me, it's tough because the subscribers, they want that ADP specific to ADP before the game, ADP for drafts after the game, and then there was 2 games, so I was constantly updating things, creating various hybrids, time specific ADP for the drafts, and it had to be sharp. And I had people contacting me. It's like, do you have the ADP just for the drafts after the game? I was like, yeah, I've been doing it all day. It's there. Like, I know what you guys need. But it worked out well.
Listen, Darren,
Vegas.
This conversation, you know me, I'll pay whatever you want. I think it's just an automatic withdrawal from my account now anyways. So just charge us whatever you want for the website. It's totally worth it. You should have like an upcharge for these. Listen, I paid $1,000 to fly out there and stay for that ADP live and the boards. Charge these people, make them pay. If you're not going to go to Vegas, make them pay for that ADP.
Times are tough, but we do it. We do it for the people. And I was surprised when I went to Kentucky, like, there's so many people came up to me and they said, "Oh, I love your site." It's like, well, you're KFFC. That's not really tight end premium. It's like, still, even those guys were, they were using it. So good feedback from people.
You promised Farrell you would go years ago. I promised Adam I would go next year, a month ago. So see you there if you have that. If you have another promise hanging out there.
It's
Pretty
different than Vegas. It's in Vegas, people go to the drafts and they just disappear into the city. In Kentucky, like everybody's like kind of stuck at that hotel, and so like you kind of hang out with people a little more, I think.
Well, it's a casino too. You got live music and bars.
Yeah.
I love it. Listen, we're doing the Bourbon Trail next year, so
Yeah.
join us for that next year.
Yep.
Let's go.
And I love to be stuck at a hotel. Bleeding into the Las Vegas Strip is my least favorite thing about being there, other than the fact that I have to work during the day and then come home for week one. In Kentucky, I don't have those particular obstacles either, so I want to do that one.
You don't have the time difference either, which was helpful. It's good to be in the same time zone if you're an East Coast guy.
How does it compare in terms of difficulty?
In terms of the drafters,
Yeah, like chances of winning.
I think it's maybe a little bit softer because they do get a crowd like from that regional area. And it's a lot of guys. They're just going there to have a good time, and the price point's a little lower. Like these were 350 leagues, and I was almost like I hardly even care like how this turns out because it's not like the $2,000 entry fee. I'm doing well in those leagues, but it wasn't as much pressure. I thought, and it's cool because you get to bid on your draft slots like before the draft. So
yeah,
there's a lot of different dynamics to it.
Yeah, so I only do the big paybacks, only the $1,000 leagues, and those are tough as hell because that's Scott Connor and Frying Pan Inc. and like all the I'm gonna forget Jay Reed and like those are
Danny
like
Mueller's there.
Danny Mueller, Fozzie Dog, like those are all, and they're all usually in all the drafts. So it's like the same 12 guys in 4 drafts, like bidding for different draft positions for the weekend, and so those are hard.
The Bitcoin was out there.
That's right. Bip was there. Yeah.
And it's cool because to me, it's like even strategy and like getting a spot. Like I didn't want to draft right next to Bip. So Bip got, he bid on the number 1 spot. I was like, I don't want to sit next to this guy. So then I went like 2 down and I was drafting at 3. So it was like, there's little different dynamics to it, which I liked.
Yep.
The last time I saw it, Bip was at the Bare Knuckle, which this year was canceled. Because I guess they didn't have enough people for it. And I say this politely and respectfully because that's been a huge and exciting part of my experience in fantasy football for the previous 3 years is it just got a little rowdy last year. And that is hard enough to go in there at midnight Eastern and do 28 rounds at 30 seconds from memory and without people sort of shouting and mocking it from behind you. So that was a tipping point for me this year. I'd love to do that again. I tried a couple times with friends to get a league like that going, but how do you do it? I mean, who's gonna take a league like that seriously?
It's a lot of prep. Yeah,
it's a lot.
It's fun, but you end up doing a mock draft, and then what was the point? It's got to be for some stakes.
28 rounds that's a lot to ask, from memory. It's tough.
Yeah, it was tough. I really enjoyed the challenge, but it just got a little bit too not fun last year. Anyway, but that's just me.
Yeah.
I saw a tweet today, Darren, that you're doing well in more than just the one league or the main events so far this year. And you seem to imply, now this is where we have to sort of probe you, that running back strategy may have been the impetus for your success, may have been integral to it. I don't know if you're just trolling young bucks like me, or if you're that's really it. Barkley, Derrick Henry, et cetera. So just generally tell us how it's going and why it's going as well.
It's really going well. So as I got sort of deeper into the draft season, I would say right with pros versus Joes, I kind of shifted. Like I kind of locked into like a hero RB strategy. And then with later tight ends, I kind of backed off the elite tight ends. So it was kind of like two dynamics to it that I seem to be doing well. And I kept drafting Saquon. I've been saying all off season, like if you look at, like I was on with Balky, I think I was on with you guys. And like people were concerned that when one of the things against Barkley was, oh, well, there's still, Hurts is going to get all the short yardage situations. And I was like, I didn't think that at all. They brought him in because they wanted to take the heat off Hurts so he wouldn't get destroyed, like running like the tush push all the time and subjecting him to risk. And plus I'm a Penn State graduate and I'm an Eagles homer. So it just all put together, it's kind of fallen the right way. So I drafted Barkley in deep end. I drafted him the pros versus Joes, and my morning draft after the Eagles game where Barkley jumped up, I had the number 2 pick, and I did take him at the 102 there. So which see if CMC hadn't gotten hurt or like been out. I forget when he got declared to be out, but
Monday evening before kickoff.
Okay, but the vibes are really bad, so I backed off of McCaffrey. Like I went 3 days prior, I was like, oh, I'm going to take either CMC or CeeDee Lamb. But then when Barkley had that big game, I just moved Barkley ahead of him, and it seemed to be working. Now that team, that main event team, was actually in the top 5 of the main event, like early on Sunday mornings, and it's still early. Like nobody's won anything, but it's okay to feel good about your team's week 3. Like just enjoy it for that 4-day stretch, because it could blow up in your face like a week later. Just enjoy it, you know.
Can we feel bad about our team's week 3? Because I feel bad about a lot of my teams. But I did the same thing you did, kind of, Darren. Later on, that's why I like kind of drafting after the games late in Vegas, because like the 3K auction, I just went ahead and took. Actually, that was before the Friday game. That was Thursday. I went ahead and took Barkley because I needed more of him, and then I had a main event the day after the game, and I took him at the 101. I had 101. I took him because I needed more, and that team's looking really, really good. And so, yeah, sometimes you just got to trust the situation, follow the money a little bit, make it make sense. But Hurts took a goal line touchdown, at least one away so far this year, which I think is going to be a thorn in Barkley's side the rest of the season too.
I don't think it's going to be. It's not to the degree that people were afraid of that situation.
Yeah.
But we'll see. And he's like, I'm waiting for him to pull a hamstring because
they all do.
He's got that vibe, and so just enjoy it. Okay, now the bye week hell's already coming. Like week 5, man. That there's Eagles are off. 4 teams are off. Eagles, Lions, Titans, and Chargers are off. So you're already having to deal with that sort of hole in your lineup already. So you got to this week in waivers, you should be looking forward to see who your guys might be off week 5.
Pick up Jonathan Brooks, everyone. Go on your waiver wires and pick up Jonathan Brooks. Okay.
You wouldn't do that to our audience if you didn't mean it, right? You wouldn't do that.
I would.
Kansas City in week 6, and I'm old enough to remember Kansas City being good in fantasy. Hey, I'll raise my hand too. Louis G and I did a main event on the Saturday morning, and we were thrilled to get AJ Brown at 11. It turns out he's never played a game for us. He played one the night before. We were happy to bank the points. We lost anyway. And then it's been inactive the last 2 weeks, but it sounds maybe like it's time for him to play this week.
I don't know, with that bye week in week 5, you think they might just suck it up and hold both him and Devonta out, and then we might not get him back till week 6. I think this week they might just lean on the run, and
who do they play?
Good question.
Is it San Fran?
No.
Oh, we're all searching. Who can get there first?
Eagles, Tampa Bay.
Oh, that's all right.
So,
and then
can they beat? I don't know. We'll see. Dotson's. He's not going to do anything.
It's another Dallas Goedert game, baby.
It's Covey, right? Is he next at receiver after
he got injured? He's out.
He's out too. Wow, what a season already.
So it's going to be a cast of misfits at wide receiver. Like I don't think they.
Who's the rookie? I'm drawing a blank. 6'5" rookie there.
Johnny Wilson.
Johnny Wilson.
Maybe
who was outperformed Keon Coleman last year at Florida State.
Wow.
Before we get too far away from Darren's success, and we never get that far away, but let's take a look at the top 10 for everybody involved in the Deep End Invitational and those interested. Darren is a division leader, Fantasy Mojo, at 3rd overall. If you're not watching this, we will tell you happily, Alan Soslowski is off to a commanding lead from RotoWire. He's the Division 4 leader as well. And then it's Deepak Chona that's my division, Division 2. And the Division 1 leader is the new father, Zachary Kruger, who stands 6th overall. Newcomer, Mason Spain, Lord Reeves, Rich Rebar, Bip, myself, Austin Martin, and Dave Hubbard round out the top 10. And I thought it would be interesting to look at, not that the other positions aren't interesting too, like tight end is super interesting right now, but I've listed here per team the top quarterbacks. Not everybody. I think Darren might have Michael Penix on his roster, but just quarterbacks who have been, there so far this year. And you'll notice there are several quarterbacks where there are 2 teams. There's nobody, I believe, with 3. And the big names who are missing, no teams in the top 10, are Jalen Hurts and Anthony Richardson, which I guess, especially in Richardson's case, is not surprising. But you do see with Darren, with Mojo, Lamar Jackson on his team. You do see a couple of Deshaun Watson teams, Prescott, who I have as well, CJ Stroud. The performances have been so uneven so far, even in terms of Josh Allen, who has repped once here in the top 10. I don't know. Like the tournament is so great for having there be different ways to build teams. And then after that, like Zach never drafts quarterbacks early. He's sitting on Matthew Stafford, Justin Herbert, and Brissett. And so who knows? Just a big variety here so far. Adam.
Yeah, that's super fun to be able to build it different ways. And you see different quarterbacks, kind of the same points you made, different quarterbacks, different amounts of quarterbacks. I think it really just depends on like the health of the rest of your roster. Like it's just, with the injuries we've been having, did you go heavy tight end? Did you go heavy quarterback? If you went heavy tight end, you're probably in trouble. I would have thought I would have seen more Josh Allen on this list, him being the QB1. But maybe the combination of players that went with Allen, like Kincaid or something like that, haven't really fit and haven't made those teams very strong. But yeah,
and your QB2 is who, right? You drafted Allen 1 or 2 overall, and you might have
QB2 is Jaden Daniels.
That worked out. That'd be fine.
Yeah.
And he's on here a couple times too.
Yeah.
Darren, any reaction?
I mean, like you said, there's so many different ways you can build a super flex, and my particular league, I drafted right next to Hubbard, but the quarterbacks went. So it was weird. Lamar I was pick 7. Lamar lasted the 7, but the quarterbacks in our league, like they kind of dried up really fast. And that's why I only have 2. I did take Penix in the last round. Now the other drafts, they were all different. Every draft sort of had a different flow to it. And that was a draft. I remember on the stream, you wanted me to take Mark Andrews because I had Lamar and I came back in the 3rd and he's like, you got to take Mark Andrews because that's when the ship chasing guys were on the stream.
That's right.
And
it was on their show.
They got the nice, pretty roster constructions up at the front of the draft. They were building like a Tetris grid. But then like I skipped on Andrews, but then that's where I took Saquon. But it just depends. There's a long way to go, but it's cool because you can build so many different ways. And I've kind of noticed having a look at the winners draft boards, just like in a super flex tourney, it's guys who kind of slow play the quarterbacks over the course of the draft, and they get those high performing position players early on in the draft. So that I kind of tried to do that too. I missed out on the 3rd QB because I took it too far. But those are typically the guys who have the success.
I tried that, Darren. I went Christian McCaffrey, Bijan Robinson, Puka Nacua. And it's not going very well for me.
Yeah, well, that's out of your control. That's nothing.
I think, and I say this with much affection for Pat Daugherty. I believe the term in 2024 of the year in fantasy football is bank examiner. And so the bank examiner is at Adam's house. I'm sorry to even feel like I'm stealing that, but I love it. We'll talk some more here on the deep end with Fantasy Mojo, Darren Armani, Mike Schopp, and Adam Krautwurst. But first, before we do that, here's a word from our sponsor.
Hey, this will just take a second. I want to talk about our player rankings, the weekly rankings, the weekly projections. Billy, Theo, and our analytics geniuses getting your start sit decisions dialed in that flex tab. And then you get the season rankings. Want to make add drop decisions? The season rankings are updated every week all year. And you have the best dynasty rankings ever as part of the player rankings package. And don't forget the offensive line rankings. Dan Fornick, one of the best in the business. New running back starting this week. Hey, is that offensive line top 10? Yeah, okay, start them. And we rank the cornerbacks out to like CB100 with the corresponding receiver they're going to be matched up with most this coming week. The player rankings are the thing you need during the season on PlayerProfiler.com. Check it out.
Well, it's been, I guess we could always say this, a wild year. There's the wide receiver running back and forth. There's always injuries that are mostly random, but not entirely random. There's strategy in that. But I think right now, tight end, of course, and quarterback is just wild. Darren, I mean, it really is like Mahomes versus Dalton or Richardson versus Darnold. You know, Deshaun Watson has been terrible, but has a good matchup this week. Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers is third now in the MVP race in terms of the betting odds. I don't know, just your thoughts on what we've got. Of course, much of the football discourse has been how teams aren't throwing for as many yards this year, and you have a collection of young quarterbacks who I think are largely responsible for that, because guys like Richardson and Caleb Williams head-to-head on Sunday just cannot seem to get there.
Yeah, it's the young QBs are, not doing that great. Jaden Daniels finally picked it up. So, but will he continue it? It's tough to count on the consistency of those guys week to week. So, quarterback's been tough. And if you went late QB and late tight ends seem to be sort of, it's still early. Like, I think these elite tight ends they're going to pick it up pretty soon. But yeah, so if you went late tight end and late QB, you seem to be doing well.
Yeah, this is a list of the fantasy points for this is over FFPC. All the rankings of the quarterbacks here in points for total fantasy points for the year. And I think what you said there, Darren, is right. So if you went hero RB or zero RB, you are not looking good for a couple of reasons. One is generally the way to do that is you take an elite tight end and elite quarterback in there to make it, the best roster you can to build that super team. And well, that was wrong this year. So far, like you said, it's early, but so far, getting crushed that way. I mean, I guess if you took Allen, but again, Allen's the number one fantasy quarterback, but he's number one by a point per game over Lamar, and 2 points or a point and a half over Jaden Daniels, and 4 points over Sam Darnold. Not anything league winning there. So, and then the tight ends are an absolute debacle. I can share that tab. Yeah. So you got the tight ends. It's like Goddard, Bowers, Kmet, McBride is in the top 4, but he's averaging 13 points a game. Like,
Wow.
I don't want to, take over this conversation with the tight ends, but it's like, yeah, I mean, going to hero RB or zero RB is really putting you behind the 8 ball so far, because the passing games have been terrible so far. The receivers aren't doing what you wanted them to do. All the injuries, all the busts. It's gonna be tough for these hero RBs unless you want like Saquon as your hero RB, or something like that. It's gonna be tough for these hero RBs to really. You got a lot of ground to make up.
The receivers have oddly enough been the ones who've been getting hurt this year. Like the narrative is always it's the running backs who like get injured, but it's been a lot of the receivers have been going down, and it's Cooper Kupp, Puka, who else? Not Jaden Reed.
Not so much injuries, but just not a lot of, like, Garrett Wilson,
AJ Brown,
London, AJ Brown. Yeah, not a lot of production.
Well, the thing too that we always tend to talk about after a big injury with the receiving position is, yes, running backs get hurt more, but if a receiver gets hurt, you're screwed, and if his quarterback gets hurt, you're screwed. Like, look at Tyreek. Look at Garrett Wilson last year. Look at Jalen Waddle, who gets hurt and has the quarterback. It's like, if the quarterback goes down, man, these backups, some of them are just so bad. And you can't even, like, you can't start Tyreek. You're gonna, but you can't. And it's like, it's just gross. A lot of these people are in big trouble who took Tyreek early or
DJ Moore, Keenan Allen.
Yeah.
He did a little better this week, but I mean, I haven't started, Keenan Allen got hurt, but DJ Moore he was a little bit of a tough call too. So they're kind of dragging down the receivers. Michael Pittman, I mean, doing there. The Deontay Johnson, I mean, maybe Andy Dalton bails him out. McLaurin was not doing anything. So yeah, it's been tough with the receivers. So you have to have hit on the right guys. So
some of those guys trace to quarterback. I mean, that's Pittman, that's DJ Moore, and Keenan Allen, and that's McLaurin. Quarterbacks that have not, and it's so complicated, thinking of Indianapolis, everybody in fantasy football loves the idea of Anthony Richardson and the upside. And I mean, I was definitely willing, but what's happening there, and this was something we pondered but didn't really know. You're playing this game in your head. He got hurt running the ball. He's a big investment, the biggest. So to what extent do we want to have him do that? We also want to see him sort of, quote, grow as a passer. This was the Lamar Jackson thing and other guys. So let's just sort of play it safe. And what you get through 3 weeks is he's not scrambling at all.
No.
And that takes all the upside away from Richardson. So they have the big investment, but that works against you a little bit, especially when he had the injury last year that's fresh in their minds.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now, getting start sits is really tough. Getting those right. Like, I've made so many bad calls already. So, I mean, I have the players, but it's just putting the wrong guy in the line. And it seems to be if you chase the points from the prior week, like it's not really carrying over.
Yeah, that's Hunter Henry. Mike's always good about Thursday night fading guys. I can't seem to do it. And so, yeah, I mean, look at the receivers here. It's like a lot of familiar. Jawan Jennings, wide receiver 4.
Yeah.
You know, Jaden Reed. I don't know what the number is here, but maybe 12. Jaden Reed. Another guy gets hurt by a quarterback. Maybe he'd be even higher.
That whole Green Bay receiving core was sort of zeroed out from that injury. So I think things will get better, but you just have to, especially in these redraft tourneys, you really have to just keep telling yourself, like, every point counts. Like, you're going to get to the end of the year, and then you're going to be, trying to squeeze into playoffs, but you're going to be like 3 or 4 points out. Don't have that mindset the last couple of weeks of the season. You got to have that mindset now, because the 3 or 4 points that you can just grab now, that's going to help you at the end of the season. Like, just, you got to have the sense of urgency the whole way through.
Yeah. Does the tight end position necessarily correct? Because you have injuries now to Laporta and McBride, not to mention Njoku and Ingram and Kittle, of course. And you've got Pitts, who's really never done it. And then up top with Kelsey and Andrews, I think even it's maybe fair to include Andrews in this. You've got age concerns that with Kelsey have long been looming, but both guys, I mean, the Ravens are just not using Mark Andrews. I think against Buffalo on Sunday night, that's an interesting opportunity for them to sort of quash that narrative. As long as he can still play, they have 2 other tight ends that can play at least a little bit. So I don't know. Of course you're right generally that week 3 is too early to draw the biggest conclusions. We've got so long to go and all the randomness in this. But I wonder if at tight end, more so the age guys than the injury guys, it's a little bit more certain than that.
Yeah, Kelsey does seem like he's just slow. Laporta, he's injured, so McBride and Kincaid will probably be the guys that are fine in the end. Ingram is hurt. Ferguson, I like Ferguson still. I'm surprised he only sat out 1 week. Pitts still has a chance, I think, but maybe Andrews is going to be probably very frustrating because he's going to be so inconsistent. Like, he'll have a couple big games, and then Kittle was hurt too. It's crazy. So. And Joku's hurt too. It's
Ingram.
It just goes on and on. The only saving grace on Andrews is that you didn't, you got the free look. We were week 1, so you didn't have to start him for that dud. So you only got 2 duds out of him. But that's banana. I mean, I'm hoping that they came out and were like, hey, we're going to run the ball. That they saw something. Hey, we're going to run the ball 45 times, and Mark's just not going to get the ball because he came back last year and played at the end of the year. Like, it's not like he's coming off an injury. Like, he got injured, he came back, he played, like, had a whole off season. He's not old. It doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe he's a buy low guy, but yeah, like with the injuries, Goddard's feasting off the injuries. Bowers looks great. There's a couple guys, that Bowers that can get there, but I'm not so sure, about the Pitts thing. They got the guy running, and I'm not making excuses for Pitts because maybe he can't do it, but like he can't run a 5-yard drag route. Like, he can't run, like, you got him running these clear out route after clear out route after clear out route. His head's up. Like, I love them. I wish you could watch the whole game from that Madden view because you can really see so much more. His head's down, just 15 yards down. He's not even looking for the ball. not expecting to get it. Like, I feel like he's just, and then they go to him, no pass interference, but we'll leave that there. But yeah, it's
Wouldn't have helped us anyway.
It wouldn't help us anyways. It wouldn't help us anyways.
Andrews did have a car accident during training camp, and while he did come back, it was for the AFC Championship, and he did nothing in that game, so he might not have been ready to do that. I don't know. Darren, Adam and I, like, he's the one guy we always draft. The price seems always right. When we draft at the front end, he slides. We always end up on Andrews, and I don't know. Like, they're trying to figure out who they are, I think, a little bit. And I don't want to think that he's done, but he's also, to me, not startable in week 4.
Wow, it's like to bench him that would be that would be a ballsy move.
But for who? That's the thing. Like, who's the bum you're putting in there for him?
Yeah, like, because you almost don't have a choice.
Buffalo too.
Hunter Henry, like, there are guys that are on the fringe. I mean, Henry had the big week in week 2 and is mostly owned, I would think, at this point. But Conklin last week, guys like that, I would probably start over Andrews this week.
The thing about Andrews is Andrews can make you pay, especially in a matchup against the Bills. They'll probably be chasing points. Pitts is never going to make you pay. You're never going to bench Pitts and be like, oh my God, he went 11 for. No, it'll be 3 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. That'll be
at best.
At best. Like, he can't even. How many guys? You know what? I never get to sit down. I'm so busy and watch 12 hours of football straight through on Sunday. I got to do it this last Sunday. It was Christmas Day. It's amazing to me how many guys get tackled at the 1 yard line. I watched every play of football. Guys get tackled at the 1 yard line so much more than you would actually think. And Pitts is another one. Gets all the way down there, down at the 1. You knew that was his night. That play right there.
But I mean, I was in the middle of the celebratory parade after that play. Then the flag icon pops up on the screen. Oh, it's coming back. This is typical. But they called the penalty on Kansas City.
Yeah.
So we got to have it, which was, again, a play where he got stopped 1 yard short.
Yeah, that's right.
Just to get back to Andrews real quick, there were people. I'm looking at the start percentages in the main event last week. So he was sat by 8 teams in the main event. So there are people who, I don't know. I'd be curious what their other option was. Pitts was sat in 5% of games. Kelsey was 100%. McBride was 100%. So there are a few doubters out there who are sitting these guys.
He might have been. I would want to look at that too. He might have been just late enough where I think I have a team with Andrews and Bowers or Andrews and Kittle. Kittle didn't play last week, but I know I've had a couple of those choices. And I would like to say on Kincaid, I was at the Bills game last night. It's 3 games. They look perfect so far. I mean, the last 2 games have been so easy. Kincaid is not leading that team in catches. I mean, Shakir doesn't have to run away with it, but Knox is running more routes in the first half than Kincaid. They're deciding to use him, which is probably right based on the system and the scheme versus, well, we drafted him in the first round, so we should throw the ball to him 10 times a game, which, you're always trying to figure out what it's going to be when it comes to that stuff. But with the questions about the Bills, Diggs and Davis leaving, oh, well, here's a first-round pick who's good and tight end premium and our stuff, like, he should be the one. The Bills don't seem to care.
They're spreading it around so much. It's like there's no – like, Shakir is probably just a slight edge above the other guys, but even he's not like a target monster. He's just kind of the head of the pack right now.
He catches everything. They all catch everything. The gloves. Yeah. Adam, the gloves are so good.
The gloves.
As a football player yourself, the gloves. You can't possibly, unless you're James Cook, you cannot drop a pass.
Oh, yeah, Cook. He's good for one of those, but or 4. But yeah, they're spreading. I completely agree. They don't want to be that offense. They want to be unpredictable. I was talking to a lot of Bills fans today, different groups and stuff. It's like, yeah, but who's the guy in crunch time? Well, they don't want you to know who the guy in crunch time is. That's the whole point. So they
don't have crunch time.
They don't have crunch time. That's the other point. They all sat the fourth quarter last night. So yeah, it's a situation where McBride, I don't know how bad he's hurt, but man, Bowers could be the guy, man. he could be the guy that you needed to draft as tight end 9 or 10 that ends up getting you there.
Darren, what about Saquon Barkley versus Jonathan Taylor? Taylor's off to a pretty good start. I mean, Barkley a better one, but a lot of this, as you know, is sort of positional balance and roster construction, and Taylor and Barkley were largely around the same. Do you think Taylor is almost as good to have?
Well, they seem to sit. They'll pull Taylor. They've been sitting him like based on a game script, and Taylor doesn't get the pass volume that Barkley does.
Right.
So I kind of like Barkley out of both of those guys, but I don't think anybody's complaining with having either of them because they're still both producing. But Taylor seems to be the guy that could disappear on you at any given time, depending what they want to do.
You have Gibbs in that range too, right, Adam? I mean, how does Gibbs fit in with the other two so far?
Gibbs is interesting. He's got to be way more efficient than them because he just doesn't get the workload. Again, Montgomery, if he goes down, like he went down for a couple weeks last year, and Gibbs was insane. I kind of wish Achane had the Gibbs role because maybe when Mostert comes back, he will. Because I don't like seeing him getting 25 touches on an offense that with no offensive line and a terrible quarterback. He's going to get killed. So I like the way they use Gibbs, but I think Barkley for sure. Because before this last week, like Darren said, Taylor wasn't even out there on any pass plays at all ever. And so this week he gets a long catch and run. But yeah, I think he's got to get, and a lot of these running backs too are kind of breaking the mold in a sense that, there are a lot of powerful, even with like James Cook, they're all scoring from distance constantly. And if I say this, I mean like over 10 yards. They're constantly scoring 15, 20, 30 yard touchdowns. They're not getting those goal line scores. So when those long touchdowns kind of dry up, I'm interested to see kind of where they go fantasy wise.
Each of you have I'll do one too, a favorite week 4 waivers pickup, whether they're obvious or not.
I don't. I haven't even.
While you're thinking, I'll throw in 2 names if that helps. Emmanuel Wilson, I think if he's not picked up already, is definitely live in Green Bay, and then Tutu with the Rams, who I had held on to with dear life last year. I even drafted him over Puka, wanting that one late Rams receiver, and didn't quite get there. But draft capital, and he had a nice day Sunday.
I like Wilson. He had a nice catch and run touchdown. A guy that I would never drop running backs ever. A guy that I would look to pick up because he's probably Derek probably maybe tell us how many leagues, what percentage of leagues he's available in. But Roshan Johnson was getting dropped. He was a recommended drop. He's the third back, this and that.
He's 60% available, and
there you go. Like Roshan Johnson, man, go and grab him. He was the number 2, and DeAndre Swift isn't good, and every team figures that out.
I did not draft Swift in any league because like he was on the Eagles last year, so I got to see quite a bit of him. I was like, I don't know, they made him a priority, but I don't see what they're going to do with them. But they still have 2 other decent options, and I don't know. They gave up on him already, I guess. I don't know.
The Eagles, very well-respected organization, spend the money on Barkley. Maybe they deserve the benefit of the doubt there. The Bears, who are a mess, have all the cap room in the world with where their roster ends up. Spend the money on Swift. First guy signed, and maybe we took that a little bit too seriously when they did that. Oh, he got paid, but what if he's terrible? Yeah. And the line is struggling. I don't know.
A couple deep, maybe waiver guys like Brenton Strange, maybe like this is like digging through the dirt in FFPC leagues. Jalen Nailor's 20% available, which was kind of surprising, and Darnold's 20%. So people are still trying to figure out quarterback in a lot of spots. So Darnold's probably going to get. I would probably expect to see some decent coin thrown at Darnold this week.
The frustrating thing for me is, and I don't know how you guys do with this stuff, is running backs are different. Running backs, you draft them or you pick them up and you stash them, just waiting. But the receivers, like I picked up Tolbert, not Tolbert. Who did you just say from the Vikings? Naylor, sorry, Jalen Naylor, Tolbert. I picked up Naylor everywhere like 2 weeks ago, but I just haven't started him because I just can't get there. And then every week he scores, and I'm like, well, now how many touchdowns is he going to score? 10. Like, no, he's not going to score 10. Every touchdown he scored, he already scored. Now he's on my and he's on my bench for all of them. It's just I get frustrated when I pick up. That's why picking up receivers is hard for me because unless I'm going to start them like that week, like Jawan Jennings, I was looking everywhere for him. I couldn't find him, and when I did, I think I got outbid, and he just destroyed this past week. Like, unless you're going to start a receiver, it's hard for me to pick him up on waivers.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you have to be like in a really desperate situation usually to throw them into the lineup right away. You usually like to see it, but it's sometimes it's too late. So a guy like him. Now the funny thing with Jennings was like he was in a similar situation last year. Was he was in a spot to produce and he didn't do it. So I was kind of maybe not as aggressive on him as maybe I should have been. But this, he certainly paid off this year.
You always hear with the 49ers with McCaffrey, Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle, what if one of them is hurt? Like you draft them all in best ball. It's a dream because you don't have to. What if 2 or 3 of them are hurt? That's what we had last week with 3 of them out, and Ayuk looks like he's just not on time yet. So that set things up for Jennings.
And Ayuk is one of the anchors. I tweeted that out. Like the players most rostered on the worst teams, and Ayuk's there, and that analysis is usually like a function of how much draft capital you invested into a player, what that's costing you if they don't perform. And guys like him stand out. Like if they don't produce, the CMC obviously was really bad, but the more you invest into a player and if they don't pan out, then that's the more it's going to affect your team.
Waddle is scary in that area right now. I think, Tyreek, both
for sure. You guys want to take a quick trade question from one of our viewers here? Dylan says, 0-3 urgent. Player's been struggling hurt. Redraft full PPR. Should he trade Anthony Richardson, Travis Etienne, and Garrett Wilson for Lamar, Montgomery, and Ayuk? Would you do it? I like the Lamar side of the
Me too. Deal. I would.
I'm not giving up on Garrett Wilson.
Well, I'm not. Well, Garrett Wilson, no. But
Lamar.
I like Lamar way over Richardson right now.
Full PPR.
I guess not a slam dunk, but I feel like
it's that you're definitely getting like a league-winning type quarterback. Lamar is the key piece, and you think Ayuk, you're maybe doing a buy low on Ayuk. So.
Buy low, and ETN. The Jaguars are terrible.
Yeah, that's
so
sort of like a situation that doesn't seem to be getting any better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would do that maybe. Yeah,
for sure.
Good question. 0-3 is tough. It's not too late, but you might want to try to trade Wilson, who's your best guy, and see if you can't get going a different way, 2 for 1, something like that. That usually goes the other way around, right? It's the 3-0 teams who are looking to try to take your best guy. But this is a good week to be hard at work at that. Darren, before we wrap, so I was cleaning out my closet last week, and I found the day we met a Derek Brooks autographed card that you gave out at the expo. You gave cards out to everybody who went to your seminar. And I don't think I know this about you. Are you a card guy? Like, are you a collector? And if you are, do you have an all-time favorite card? Because I want to see if I can go get it in the next 60 seconds.
Yeah, for a while, I was in the card business, kind of in college, and then like my first years of my professional career. I actually had a card store for a while. So in my closet, if I open the door, you're going to see like the entire inventory from the store that's still in there. And right now I'm actually selling off a lot of it because, we're like, I'm going to keep this for my kids. Well, my kids had no interest in this stuff. So now I got to get rid of this stuff because something happens to me. They're not going to know what to do with it. So I'm like, it needs a lot of stuff can find a new home and somebody else can enjoy it. But yeah. And like you see the collectibles. So I have my favorite pieces. My favorite card that I have, that's tough. I think I like the memorabilia more.
Okay.
To be honest with you, than the card. Like I've got a sign from Veteran Stadium, like the giant aluminum signs that thing weighs like 80 pounds. So from when they demolished the Veteran Stadium, some guy who was doing construction was just grabbing these and kind of selling them. So I got like real pieces from the vet.
Where do they do that in Buffalo? It's going to be mayhem.
2 years.
They're going to have people like bringing tools to the stadium and like taking the seats out during the game.
Go Bills. Nick and Sean will be up there just ravaging through the.
If I may quickly indulge myself, I'll just have to reach across the bar. But my best card is a Philadelphia card. May I?
Ooh,
Sure.
of course.
You guess it? Can you guess it, Adam?
Greg Luzinski.
Daryl LaMonica. Was he an Eagle? I have no idea.
Manny Trio.
Randall Cunningham.
Did you say Randall Cunningham?
Yes.
Good guess, not right. It's a Wilt rookie.
Will Rookie.
I'm
Nice.
thinking Eagles.
That's
Okay.
nice, man.
That is
This
nice.
is my bet. One of my best, like 3 or 4 cards is the Wilt rookie.
I'm not even sure what that goes for. It's got to be a couple hundred, I would think.
Yeah, at least.
Was the name of your card store? Was it called Mike's Basement? Was that the name of your card store?
No.
Because
I had a card store.
You did?
Yes. In high school.
No way.
In my dad's building, my friend Todd and I opened a card store for a summer, bases loaded. I think that's actually my buddy Jeff's store is Bases Loaded. So now I might be confusing that, but maybe I don't remember the name of it. But it was just for one summer between high school and college, and then I just couldn't do it anymore. But
so what year was that?
The Chamberlain 61.
No, what year
61
was the card store?
Oh, summer of '89.
Okay, that was when it was like all mass produced. That was sort of the glut era of cards.
The boom.
Yeah.
But then I hosted a radio show on Saturdays at WGR on card collecting for 8 or 10 years, and came into lots of collections through that. People who heard it and wanted to sell, and that was exciting and and fun.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been fun too. Thank you, Darren at Fantasy Mojo. Good luck in the Deep End Invitational. Pros versus Joes. I think Adam and I are dead 12th, so we've never had a worse start in that.
Yeah.
So we might not have
something. Yeah, it's gross.
17 weeks, long season, bro. Don't give in.
No,
Don't
can't do anything about it anyway. That's right. Thanks, Darren, who joined us on short notice tonight. Mike and Adam at Schopp Talk at Adam_Krautwurst. Let us know questions, comments, and please like and subscribe through YouTube or where you find your podcast, because that helps other people find it, which is good for us. We will wish you luck in week 4. And, you can find me tomorrow, by the way, at Purple Insider, Wednesdays, doing fantasy analysis with Matt Collar. Okay. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.